Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you an AI SEO content engine that handles everything from keyword research to final content publication. As you can see, it's quite big, with dozens of nodes and complex logic flows. And I'm going to first start off by explaining who needs this automation, what problems it solves, and how it can dramatically transform their business operations. So this automation essentially replaces an entire content team, including SEO specialists, content strategists, and writers. That means content can now be strategically planned with advanced keyword research, topic clusters generated on demand based on search intent, and everything updated regularly with current market information and trending topics. This system is particularly ideal for AI SEO agencies managing multiple clients simultaneously, digital marketing agencies looking to scale their content operations, e-commerce businesses with large product catalogs, or basically anywhere where you would use an AI SEO application but need it at enterprise scale. So how does this entire system work from start to finish? So before I get into the technical details and show you the live demo, I'm first going to start off with explaining the overall architecture and how all the components work together. So right here in my TL draw diagram, I just have a basic framework that illustrates the entire data flow and process. First off, we will use Airtable as the central user interface and database management system. This is where we will enter important information like the primary keyword we want to target, the niche or industry we're focusing on, and various parameters for our research. And we'll also use Airtable to validate and approve the ideas that we have gotten from the automated research process. So it then gets processed by N8N, our automation engine. N8N does all the heavy lifting with the research, data processing, and API calls. Once it completes the research phase, it updates Airtable with all the findings and insights. So I'm going to first start off with explaining the basic framework of how this entire system is architected and connected. Then I'm going to go over to a comprehensive live demo where you'll see every step in action. So the entire process first starts out in Airtable, where you enter all the important features and parameters that you need for your content campaign. And the interface basically looks like this clean, organized dashboard. I can have something like a real estate niche here with specific targeting parameters and research depth settings. And once that initial setup is done, it goes to N8N for processing. The information is fed to N8N through webhooks and API calls, and it does its comprehensive analysis and research. The information, including all the keyword data and market research, is then processed by N8N's various nodes and integrations. N8N then does the extensive research using multiple data sources and updates the Airtable database with structured results. The reason why we want to update Airtable after each major step is because we want to get feedback and validation from a human operator. So it's kind of like a human-in-the-loop system that ensures quality control at every stage. Once you validate that the research results meet your standards, it then goes over to the strategy development part, then updates Airtable with content plans and topic clusters. Once you validate the strategy, again, it will go to the content creating part where AI writers generate the actual articles. And then it will update Airtable with the final content pieces ready for processing. So now I'm going to go over to a detailed demo of how this entire system works live, showing you each phase of the automation. So right here, I have a real estate field set up as our test case, and I'm just going to execute this workflow. So right here, When I set this up to get keyword research, it's going to automatically trigger this workflow and go towards the keyword research workflow. And now it's waiting for a trigger. So I'm going to set it in Airtable. So right here, I'm going to set it to get keyword research. And once that happens, it's going to trigger an automation. And as you can see, it has taken those details and it has triggered this part of the workflow. Now, if we follow that up right here, you can see that it's getting primary keywords from Airtable. So it's actually going to Airtable in this table right here. And it's getting the primary keyword, which is real estate. Now, as you can see, the status automatically changed to keyword research complete. And remember, we had it at get keyword research. That means it has completed this automation. One thing I forgot to set was the limit and the depth, but we will get into this much later. This is basically what Data for SEO needs to set everything up for you. So going back to our automation, it gets the primary keywords from Airtable. Once it does that, it now uses the primary keywords to get related keywords from Data for SEO to create an Airtable record. So once that happens, it will go through these different stages of keyword research. And the first one basically gets keywords from Data for SEO and related keywords from Data for SEO, so that we can add that to a master all keywords variation table. Now, if we go back to our Airtable, we have this table right here, master all keywords variation. So these are all the keywords it's gotten. As you can see, we have data for SEO, keyword idea, search intent. We can also see the competition level. Data for SEO gives us really good data. So these are the results that we get from this first part, which basically adds to the master keyword variation table. And for the rest, it's the same thing basically happening. The only difference is we're setting keyword related fields. Here, we are setting keyword suggestion fields. Here, we are setting keyword idea fields. And right here, we are setting autocomplete fields. Right here, we are setting subtopic fields. And finally, in this part of the automation, it basically gets the sub results from Data for SEO and also gets what people also ask. So it's basically set up the same way. It's only filling out different parts. It's basically updating different parts of the automation in Airtable. Once it's done, we update the status from get keyword research to keyword research complete. So that's the first part of the automation. Now that we have done that, we can go over to the keyword categories that we've gotten, right? So now that we are done with the first part of the automation, which was the research part, we now go to the second part, which is going to be the strategy part. So right here, I have different strategies. Just a point to note, these strategies can be customized however you'd like. I already have a keyword category strategy set up, so I'm going to run with it. And before I set this up, I'm first going to go to my N8N workflow and execute workflow so that it can expect the webhook from Airtable. Normally in production, this will be set to production, so you don't have to go back and click execute workflow. Now, once I have clicked this, I am now expecting it to go to keyword category strategy, and this is basically the strategy that I want to use to create content from my real estate keyword research. So I'm going to go to keyword category strategy. And once I click on that, it should trigger this automation in N8N. So the strategy part of the automation is complete. Now let's just go over and see what happened. Basically, once the automation triggered, it went towards the keyword category strategy route. And this creates a strategy. And this basically creates a content strategy based on the keywords that we picked. This first part of the automation gets keywords from the master list and categorizes them. And it categorizes them into 4 topics: quick wins, authority builders, emerging topics, and unknowns. So the reason why I have it categorized into these 4 topics is so that you can have different content for different use cases. With this, you can even have short form content ideas. You can have long form content ideas, authority builders, emerging topics, and you can basically dominate every part of your niche with this strategy. There are different other strategies that you might use that can be custom built. I just saw this as the most efficient one to use when you want to dominate your niche in every part. What happens here is I get the master list from Airtable, and this is where it sources it from. So right here, we have the master all keyword variations. And remember, we filled this up when we ran the research part of the automation. So this is what it takes. And once it takes that, it generates keywords and categorizes them into 4 parts: quick wins, authority builders, emerging topics, and unknown. And once it does that, it creates a title and description for each categorized keyword, which is really cool. That means with this kind of information, you can have a strategy to create content, not only for articles, but for short form media content, for long form media content, or basically however you'd like. And once that's done, it basically creates a record in Airtable. And the record is keyword content. So we are going to go over to Airtable and check it out. Right here, we have our keyword content table, and we have authority builders. So going back to Airtable and looking for the keyword categories field, this is what it basically updated. And right here, we can see that it's been set up very well, that it categorizes them with the primary keyword. So for real estate, we have authority builders. This is basically content that sets you up as an authority in the field. We have emerging topics. We have unknown. Apparently, it did not get quick wins in real estate. Maybe another example will have them. And I should also set up higher limits for me to get more content. But apparently, I didn't fill it out in the primary keywords. Be sure to fill that out when you try it out. So back to the keyword categories. We can see that we have authority builders, we have emerging topics, we have other unknown categories. So it is now time to actually write the article. In order to do that, now that you have confirmed and validated that everything is okay with what you want to do, you can now go over to Article Writer. And in Article Writer, you just go to Ready to Write. So if I change this to Write Article, it should trigger this automation right here. Let's move on to the final section of our workflow, which focuses on creating the actual content for our project. First, you need to ensure that your data is validated from a table. Once that's done, I'll navigate back to the table. We're now looking at the keyword categories section. Here, you'll see a table named Article Writer. Your task is to locate the relevant cluster for your project. This is the one I was just working on, so let me show you. As you can see, this cluster is titled Home Buying Process Financing, a Comprehensive Guide. Right now, its status is marked as Ready to Write, which means we can proceed with drafting the article. Before moving forward, I'll run the workflow one more time to ensure everything is set. Then I'll trigger the automation process. Once this step is complete, I expect the workflow to transition to the final stage, which is the content creation phase. As anticipated, the automation followed the article writing route. This part is the most robust and critical component of the entire automation process because in the initial stage, we incorporate the writing style tailored to our target customers. If we go back to the table and review the brand guidelines, we can define various styles, including image style, core values, brand restrictions, typography, voice, and target audience. The default settings I have in place work effectively. but they're fully customizable. You can configure these settings to match your preferences. Once the style is set, the system conducts in-depth customer research based on the guidelines provided. This feature is particularly impressive because it identifies your customers, understands their behaviors, needs, pain points, and other key details. This research is powered by a live search, which I've set up using Perplexity. It delivers reliable and high-quality research results. After the research is complete, the system supports 3 distinct article writing styles. The first is the pillar writer, which focuses on comprehensive cornerstone content. The second is the subpage article writer, designed for more specific pages. The third is the keyword categorization writer, which organizes content based on keyword strategies. In this specific example, the system generated a pillar article. If you check the article writer table, you'll see this content is classified as a pillar, not a subpage. This classification comes from the keyword categories results, which determine whether the content is a pillar or a subpage. This decision directs the automation to follow a specific route. If I want to change this to a subpage, I can adjust the settings to designate it as such, and the automation will follow the subpage route. The distinction is important because, in most SEO strategies, pillar and subpage content serve different purposes. You can customize this based on your strategy. To make changes, you can update the settings directly here. The overall process remains consistent across both types. The main difference lies in the prompts used for the main body outline, main body writer, conclusion writer, and takeaways agent. However, the core structure is similar for the pillar writer, sub-page article writer, and keyword categorization writer. Let's now take a look at the results we've obtained. You can see that the article is now marked as complete. Its status has shifted from ready to write to article complete. The cluster is named Real Estate and Financing, and it includes key takeaways and the article URL. If we review the key takeaways, you'll see that buying a home can be a challenging process. However, with the right knowledge and guidance, you can navigate it with confidence. The article is well crafted, though Airtable doesn't allow us to expand this view fully. When I read through the article, it's quite detailed and lengthy. I configured it to be around 1,200 words, but you can adjust the length to suit your needs. This is a draft you can select and refine further. If I had provided additional details in the brand guidelines, such as the specific writing style, tone, target audience, or article code, the results would be even more precise. This demonstration showcases how the entire SEO engine operates. It's a comprehensive infrastructure designed to streamline content creation. Now, I'll walk you through setting up this workflow. The first step is configuring Airtable. To connect N8N with Airtable, I recommend watching one of the tutorial videos on this channel. It provides a step-by-step guide for setting up Airtable with N8N. The next step involves sharing this table, which I'll do directly. However, the automations themselves cannot be shared directly. As I mentioned earlier, you'll need a Team Airtable plan to enable internal automations within Airtable. Let me show you one of these automations as an example. I'll walk you through one and point out what needs to be adjusted. You can handle the rest from there. Here's the Get Keywords Research automation. This automation triggers when a record meets specific conditions. In the primary keywords table, when the strategy status is set to Get Keyword Research, it activates this automation. The next step involves running a script. The script will look like this, and I'll share the code so you can copy and paste it as it works reliably. On the left side of the interface, you need to configure the record ID, webhook URL, and primary keyword. If you follow my setup exactly, it will function the same way. Just set this as the record ID. For the value, insert the Airtable record ID here. My apologies for any confusion. Make sure to add the Airtable record ID as the value. For the webhook URL, input an internal webhook URL. The value will be this one. Currently, I'm running this in test mode. I suggest setting it up in production mode to avoid manually executing the workflow each time. You can do this by copying the URL from here. Note that it's a post request, but I'll leave mine in test mode for now. Once you copy the URL, paste it here. For the name, keep it as primary keyword, and the value will be the primary keyword, which you can search for. For the remaining automations, the only difference is the keyword research component. In my setup, if you look at N8N, there's a switch node that directs the automation to different paths based on the input from Airtable. These paths include keyword research, keyword category strategy, and article writing. For this example, I'll set it to keyword research. Some strategies I haven't included here as I don't use them. Next, you'll configure the keyword categorization strategy, which follows a similar process. The only change is in the script, where you'll set it to keyword categorization strategy. The code snippet remains identical. On the left, the inputs include the record ID, N8N webhook URL, and primary keyword. You'll follow the same process for the write article automation. If you have custom strategies like I do, you can add them using the same approach. The next part involves moving cluster content and keyword content to the article writer table. I don't use the cluster content feature, but I'll explain how to set it up. When a record in the keyword content table has the status sent to article writer, it triggers an automation that creates a record in the article writer table. Setting up the title is straightforward. Click the plus icon, locate the title, and fill it in. For the article URL, follow the same process using the primary keywords table. The category serves as the description, and you can include additional fields if needed. I found these to be the most practical. Once that's configured, you'll update a record. This is a separate automation from creating a record. This one updates the article writer table, changing the status to ready to write. That's all for this part. With Airtable set up, you're ready to proceed. Now I'll demonstrate how to configure the data for SEO integration. Here's my account. You're provided with $1 for testing, which is more than enough. I've run this automation multiple times and my balance hasn't changed, so it lasts a long time. You won't need to add funds unless you're using it daily for production. Once your account is set up, navigate to API Access. Upon logging into Data for SEO, you'll receive an API password. Store it securely. If you lose it, you can request it via email. The system will send you the API password. Next, convert it to base 64 using any online base 64 converter. There are plenty of converters available. Paste your API key into the converter. For example, if my API key is 12345, it will convert it into a format compatible with N8N. The result will vary, of course. Once you have the encoded key, return to N8N and locate the HTTP nodes used for Data for SEO, which are part of the keyword research process. Open one and configure it. It should already be partially set up. You only need to configure the header authorization. Select generic credential type for authentication. Set the generic authorization type to header. For the header authorization, click and set it as authorization. Then type BASIC with a capital B, like this. it should appear as BASIC followed by your encoded API key. Paste the encoded key into the value field. Ensure the field is set to authorization and uses BASIC with a capital B, a space, and your encoded key. Apply this configuration to all HTTP nodes related to data for SEO. There are approximately 7, all within the keyword research section. Next, you'll set up Perplexity. I use Perplexity for researching the customer's writing style. For Perplexity, use a generic credential type. My setup may differ from yours, as mine is already configured. Go to Perplexity and add credits to your account. $5 is more than enough. There's a video in this tutorial series that explains how to connect Perplexity with N8N. Follow it to set up your credentials, and you'll be ready to proceed. That's everything for this video. I'll see you in the next one.